Claire Whitmore thought she was untouchable, a wealthy heiress who could buy her way out of any problem with Daddy's money. But when a champagne-fueled bet at an exclusive rooftop party spiraled completely out of control, she found herself legally bound to a man she barely knew. A single father whose 7-year-old daughter would either expose Claire as the fraud she really was, or transform her into someone she never thought she could become. What started as a reckless game to prove her fearlessness became a battle for her very soul, where keeping her word would cost her everything she thought she wanted, but might give her the only thing she truly needed. The cameras were rolling, the gossip blogs were watching, and Claire's perfect world was about to shatter in ways that would shock everyone who thought they knew her. Her mother's ultimatum was just the beginning of a scandal that would either destroy 3 lives or create the most unexpected family anyone could imagine. If you're watching this, subscribe and tell me where you're from, because this story will make you question everything you think you know about love, family, and what it really means to keep your promises. The champagne bubbled in Claire Whitmore's glass as she stood on the rooftop terrace, looking out over the city lights. Friday night in downtown meant expensive drinks, designer dresses, and conversations that never seemed to matter much. She took a small sip and tried to look interested as her friends talked about their latest shopping trips and spa appointments. "You're being awfully quiet tonight," Tessa Vaughn said, sliding up beside her with a fresh drink. Tessa had been Claire's best friend since college, though sometimes Claire wondered why. Tessa had a way of pushing boundaries that made Claire uncomfortable. "Just thinking," Claire replied, watching the traffic move slowly below them. At 28, she had everything most people wanted: money, a beautiful apartment, and the freedom to do whatever she pleased. So why did she feel so empty inside? "Thinking is dangerous," Tessa laughed, "especially when you're thinking that hard. You look like you're about to fall asleep standing up." Claire forced a smile. "Sorry, I guess I'm just tired of the same old thing every weekend." "Same old thing?" Tessa's eyes lit up with mischief. "Claire Whitmore, when's the last time you did something truly fearless?" "I don't know what you mean." "I mean really fearless, not buying an expensive purse or telling off a rude waiter. Something that would shock everyone who knows you." Claire turned to face her friend fully. "Why are you looking at me like that?" "Because I think you've gotten too comfortable, too predictable." Tessa's voice carried that edge it always had when she was about to suggest something Claire would regret. "Remember when we were in college and you said you'd do anything to prove you weren't just another spoiled rich girl?" "That was a long time ago, Tessa." "Was it, though?" Tessa moved closer, lowering her voice. "I bet you couldn't do something truly spontaneous if your life depended on it." Claire felt her cheeks warm. "That's ridiculous." "Prove it." The words hung in the air between them. Claire looked around at the other guests, all perfectly dressed, perfectly safe people who never took real risks with anything that mattered. Maybe Tessa had a point. "What did you have in mind?" Claire asked, already regretting the question. Tessa grinned. "Marry a complete stranger." "What?" Claire nearly choked on her champagne. "I'm serious. Pick someone tonight, someone you barely know, and marry them. Not some fake ceremony. A real, legal marriage." "That's insane, Tessa. People don't just marry strangers." "Scared?" Tessa challenged. Claire felt her pride kick in, that stubborn streak that had gotten her in trouble more times than she could count. "I'm not scared. I'm practical." "So you admit you couldn't do it?" "I didn't say that." "Then prove it." Tessa pulled out her phone. "I'll write it up right now. Claire Whitmore agrees to marry a stranger within 24 hours of this agreement." "Are you in or out?" Claire stared at the phone screen. This was crazy. This was the kind of thing that ruined lives. But something deep inside her, something that had been sleeping for too long, stirred to life. Fine, she said before she could stop herself. But I get to pick the person. Tessa's fingers flew across her phone screen. Done. And since you're so confident, let's make it official. She held up her phone, showing a typed agreement. Sign here. Claire's finger hovered over the screen. She could still back out. She should back out. Instead, she signed her name with a flourish. Witnessed by me and... Tessa looked around, then waved over two other friends. Sarah and Monica, come here. We need you to witness something historic. Within minutes, Claire found herself staring at a signed, witnessed agreement that committed her to marrying a stranger. The champagne in her system made everything feel surreal, like she was watching someone else's life unfold. This is crazy, she whispered. This is freedom, Tessa corrected. Now, who's the lucky guy? Before Claire could answer, a commotion broke out near the bar. Two men were arguing loudly, their voices carrying over the music. Other guests stepped back nervously as the situation escalated. Then Claire saw him. A tall black man in a security uniform moved between the arguing men with calm authority. He didn't shout or threaten. He simply spoke in a low, steady voice that somehow cut through all the noise. Within moments, both men had backed down, and the tension dissolved. That's him, Claire said without thinking. The security guy? Tessa followed her gaze. Claire, be serious. But Claire was already moving toward him, drawn by something she couldn't name. Maybe it was the way he'd handled the situation without violence. Maybe it was the quiet confidence in his movements. Or maybe it was just the champagne making her brave. The man was checking with the bartender when Claire approached. Up close, she could see he was probably around 30, with strong shoulders and kind eyes that seemed to take in everything around him. Excuse me, she said, her heart pounding. He turned toward her, polite but cautious. Everything okay, miss? I'm Claire. She stuck out her hand, surprised by how steady her voice sounded. Malcolm, he replied, shaking her hand briefly. Malcolm Reed, is there something I can help you with? This was it, the moment where she either backed down or changed everything. Claire took a deep breath. This is going to sound crazy, but I need to ask you something. Would you consider marrying me? Malcolm's expression didn't change for a long moment. Then he stepped back slightly, his professional mask slipping just enough for her to see his surprise. I'm sorry, what? I know it sounds insane. It is insane. But I made a bet, and I always keep my word, and I just thought, maybe. Lady, Malcolm said gently, I think you've had a little too much to drink tonight. I'm not drunk, Claire protested, though she realized how that must sound. I'm serious. I know it's crazy, but... Miss Claire, Malcolm interrupted. I don't know what kind of game this is, but I'm not interested. I have a daughter to think about. A daughter? The words hit Claire like cold water. This man had a child, a little girl who depended on him. What was she thinking, involving someone like that in her stupid bet? I'm sorry, she said quickly. I didn't know. Forget I said anything. She started to walk away, but Malcolm's voice stopped her. Wait. She turned back, hope and embarrassment warring in her chest. Why? He asked simply. Claire looked into his eyes and saw genuine curiosity, not judgment. For some reason, that made her want to tell him the truth. Because I made a promise, and I don't break promises, even stupid ones. She paused. And because you seem like a good man. Malcolm studied her for a long moment. You don't know anything about me. I know you stopped a fight without throwing a punch. I know you mentioned your daughter first when I asked you something crazy. That tells me enough. The silence stretched between them. Claire could hear Tessa's laughter from across the terrace, sharp and careless. She could see other guests stealing glances their way, probably wondering what the rich girl was doing talking to the security guard for so long. "This bet," Malcolm said finally. "What happens if you don't follow through?" Claire's throat tightened. "I lose something that matters to me." It wasn't the whole truth, but it was true enough. Malcolm was quiet for another moment. Then he shook his head slowly. "I can't help you. I'm sorry." The disappointment hit Claire harder than she'd expected. "I understand. Really, I do. It was stupid of me to ask." She turned to leave again, but this time Malcolm called her name. "Claire? Yes? If—" He paused, seeming to wrestle with himself. "If someone were to consider something like this, hypothetically, what exactly would it involve?" Claire's heart jumped. "What do you mean? I mean, would this be some kind of fake ceremony? Some pretend thing that gets you out of your bet?" "No," Claire said quietly. "It would have to be real, legal. That's the only way it would count." Malcolm closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, Claire saw something that looked like pain. "I have a 7-year-old daughter," he said. "Her name is Lily. She's been through enough changes in her life already. I can't do anything that might hurt her. I wouldn't want to hurt her either. You say that now, but you don't know what it means to be responsible for someone else's happiness every single day?" Claire felt the truth of his words like a physical blow. He was right. She had no idea what that kind of responsibility felt like. "You're right," she admitted. "I'm sorry I bothered you." This time, when she walked away, Malcolm didn't stop her. Claire made it halfway across the terrace before she felt a hand on her arm. "Claire, wait." She turned to find Malcolm behind her, his expression conflicted. "If I were to say yes," he said carefully, "there would have to be conditions." Claire's breath caught. "What kind of conditions?" "First, complete honesty with my daughter. No lies about why this is happening." "Okay." "Second, courthouse only. No big ceremony. No pretending this is some fairy tale romance." "That's fine." "Third, you understand that my daughter comes first. Always. If this arrangement causes her any pain or confusion, it ends immediately." Claire nodded, not trusting her voice. Malcolm studied her face. "Why is this bet so important to you?" The question was fair, but Claire found herself struggling to answer. How could she explain that she'd spent her whole life being seen as nothing more than a spoiled rich girl? That she'd made a promise to prove she was more than that, and breaking it would confirm every ugly thing people thought about her? "I've never broken my word," she said finally. "Not once. It's the only thing about myself I'm proud of." Something in Malcolm's expression softened. "This is crazy," he said quietly. "I know. It could ruin both our lives." "I know." Malcolm was quiet for a long moment, staring out at the city lights. Finally, he looked back at her. "Courthouse opens at 9 on Saturday morning," he said. "If you're serious about this, meet me there at 9:30. Claire felt dizzy with relief and terror. "You'll do it?" "I'll think about it tonight. If I show up tomorrow, you'll have your answer." Before Claire could respond, Malcolm walked away, leaving her standing alone on the terrace with her heart hammering in her chest. Saturday. Morning came too quickly and not quickly enough. Claire woke at 6, her mouth dry and her head pounding slightly from the champagne. For a moment, she let herself hope it had all been a strange dream. Then she saw Tessa's text message from the night before. "Can't wait to see if you go through with it." Claire stared at her phone, reality crashing over her like a cold wave. She had agreed to marry a stranger. A man she'd spoken to for maybe 10 minutes. A man with a daughter who didn't deserve to be caught up in Claire's impulsive decision. She could still back out. Call Tessa, admit she'd been drunk and stupid, pay whatever social price came with breaking her word. It would be the smart thing to do. Instead, Claire found herself getting dressed in a simple blue dress and low heels. She chose a small bouquet of flowers from the shop downstairs. White roses that seemed appropriate for a courthouse wedding that wasn't really a wedding. The courthouse was busy even on a Saturday morning, filled with people handling various legal matters. Claire stood on the front steps at 9:25, clutching her small bouquet and wondering if Malcolm would show up. At exactly 9:30, she saw him walking up the sidewalk. He was dressed in a dark suit that looked good on him, his expression serious and unreadable. Claire felt her heart skip as he approached. "You came?" she said. "I gave you my word," Malcolm replied, "though I spent most of the night thinking I was crazy." "Are you having second thoughts?" Malcolm looked at her for a long moment. "Every second thought possible, but I'm here." Claire noticed he was carrying a folder. "What's that?" "Papers," Malcolm said. "If we're doing this, we're doing it right. I had a lawyer friend draw up an agreement. It spells out that this is temporary, that we're both entering into it freely, and that it can be dissolved easily when the time comes." The practical nature of his preparation made Claire feel both grateful and sad. He was protecting himself and his daughter, which was smart, but it also reminded her that this wasn't real for him, just a temporary arrangement to help out a stranger. "That makes sense," she said. "There's something else," Malcolm said. "I need you to meet Lily before we do this. If she's not okay with it, the deal's off." Claire's stomach clenched with nervousness. "Today? After the ceremony, if you still want to go through with it." I told her I was bringing home someone important, someone who might be staying with us for a while. She's curious, but not worried. I'd like to keep it that way. "What if she doesn't like me?" "Then we'll figure out what to do next." Malcolm's expression softened slightly. "She's a good kid, Claire. She's been through a lot, but she's got a big heart. Just be yourself." "What if myself isn't good enough?" The words slipped out before Claire could stop them, revealing more vulnerability than she'd intended. Malcolm studied her face with those kind, serious eyes. "Everyone's good enough for something," he said quietly. "Come on, let's get this done." The ceremony itself took less than 15 minutes. A tired-looking justice of the peace asked them the required questions, checked their identification, and pronounced them legally married. Tessa showed up just as they were signing the papers, her eyes bright with excitement and what looked like champagne from an early brunch. "I can't believe you actually did it," Tessa whispered to Claire as Malcolm spoke quietly with the official. "Neither can I," Claire admitted. "So what's he like? What's his story?" Claire realized she barely knew. "His name is Malcolm Reed. He works security. He has a daughter." "That's it? That's all you know about your new husband?" The word husband hit Claire strangely. She looked over at Malcolm, who was carefully folding their marriage certificate and putting it in his jacket pocket. Her husband, a man she'd met less than 24 hours ago. "I guess I'll learn the rest as we go," Claire said. After the paperwork was finished, Tessa hugged Claire goodbye and promised to call later for details. Then Claire found herself alone with Malcolm on the courthouse steps, both of them wearing new gold wedding bands that felt foreign and significant. "So," Claire said, unsure what came next. "What now?" "Now we go meet my daughter," Malcolm said. "Are you ready for that?" Claire looked down at her wedding ring, still not quite believing it was real. She'd kept her word, but the hardest part was just beginning. "As ready as I'll ever be," she said. Malcolm's house was a modest two-story in a quiet neighborhood about 20 minutes from downtown. The yard was small but well-maintained, with a tire swing hanging from an old oak tree and chalk drawings decorating the driveway. "Lily likes to draw," Malcolm explained as they walked up to the front door. "Fair warning, she's probably going to ask you a lot of questions. She's curious about everything." Claire's nervousness increased with each step. She'd never spent much time around children. What if she said the wrong thing? What if Lily could tell this whole situation was fake? Malcolm unlocked the front door and called out, "Lily, I'm home, and I brought someone to meet you." The sound of running feet came from upstairs, followed by a little girl appearing at the top of the stairs. Lily Reed was beautiful, 7 years old, with her father's kind eyes and a smile that lit up her whole face. Her hair was pulled back in 2 neat braids, and she wore jeans and a bright yellow t-shirt with a cartoon cat on the front. "Dad!" She ran down the stairs and threw herself into Malcolm's arms. "You were gone forever." "I was gone 2 hours." Malcolm laughed, hugging her tight. "Lily, I'd like you to meet Claire. Claire, this is my daughter, Lily." Lily turned those curious eyes on Claire, studying her with the intense focus that only children seemed capable of. "Hi," Lily said politely. "Are you the someone important Dad told me about?" Claire's throat felt dry. "I guess I am. It's nice to meet you, Lily." "You're really pretty," Lily said matter-of-factly. "Are you going to live with us?" Claire looked at Malcolm, unsure how to answer. He nodded encouragingly. "For a little while," Claire said carefully. "Would that be okay with you?" Lily considered this seriously. "Do you like pancakes?" Yes?" "Good. Dad makes the best pancakes, but only on Sundays." "Do you have any kids?" "No, I don't. Do you want kids?" "Lily," Malcolm said gently, "maybe ease up on the questions a little bit." "It's okay," Claire said quickly. She knelt down so she was at Lily's eye level. "I've never really thought about having kids before, but I think kids are pretty amazing." Lily smiled at that. "I'm pretty amazing. Dad says so all the time." "I can see why," Claire said, and meant it. "Want to see my room? I have a fish named Bubbles, and he does tricks." Before Claire could answer, Lily had grabbed her hand and was pulling her toward the stairs. Claire looked back at Malcolm, who was watching them with an expression she couldn't read. Lily's room was exactly what Claire would have expected from a 7-year-old girl. The walls were painted purple, with glow-in-the-dark stars stuck to the ceiling. Books were scattered everywhere, along with art supplies, stuffed animals, and a small fishbowl on the dresser. "That's Bubbles," Lily said, pointing to a small goldfish swimming in circles. "Watch this. Bubbles, do your trick." She tapped on the glass, and the fish swam up to the surface. Lily dropped in a piece of food, and Bubbles ate it enthusiastically. "That's amazing," Claire said, genuinely impressed by Lily's excitement. "Dad says Bubbles isn't really doing tricks, but I think he knows his name. Don't you, Bubbles?" Claire found herself smiling despite her nervousness. There was something infectious about Lily's enthusiasm for everything around her. "I think Bubbles definitely knows his name," Claire agreed. Lily flopped down on her bed, patting the space next to her for Claire to sit. "So, are you Dad's girlfriend now?" Claire's cheeks heated. How was she supposed to explain a marriage of convenience to a 7-year-old? "It's complicated," Claire said carefully. "Adults always say that when they don't want to tell kids the truth," Lily said with startling wisdom. "Dad promised he'd always be honest with me. Are you going to be honest too?" The directness of the question caught Claire off guard. She looked into Lily's trusting eyes and felt something shift inside her chest. "Yes," Claire said. "I promise I'll always be honest with you." "Good." Lily seemed satisfied with this answer. Can I ask you something? Sure. Are you staying, or are you going to disappear? The question hit Claire like a physical blow. How many people had disappeared from this little girl's life? How many promises had been broken? I don't know how long I'll be staying, Claire said carefully. But I promise I won't just disappear without saying goodbye, okay? Lily studied her face for a moment, then nodded. Okay, want to help me feed Bubbles his dinner? He gets 3 flakes, but sometimes I give him 4 if he's been extra good. They spent the next hour in Lily's room, feeding Bubbles, reading books, and talking about everything from Lily's favorite movies to her best friend at school. Claire found herself relaxing despite the strange situation. Lily was easy to talk to, funny without trying to be, and surprisingly perceptive about the adults around her. When Malcolm called them downstairs for dinner, Claire realized she'd almost forgotten about the weirdness of the day. Almost. Dinner was simple: grilled cheese sandwiches and tomato soup, but it felt more comfortable than Claire had expected. Lily chattered about her week at school, while Malcolm listened with the kind of attention Claire had rarely seen from any adult. It was clear that everything in his world revolved around making sure his daughter felt safe and loved. After dinner, Lily asked if Claire would help her with her bath time routine. Malcolm looked surprised, but nodded when Claire said she'd try her best. Bath time turned out to involve a lot of bubbles, 3 rubber ducks, and a long story about how the ducks were actually secret agents on a mission to save the bathtub from evil soap monsters. Claire found herself laughing more than she had in months, as Lily acted out the entire adventure with dramatic voices and sound effects. When Lily was finally clean and in her pajamas, she asked Claire to read her a bedtime story. Dad usually does the voices, Lily explained as they settled on her bed, with a book about a brave princess and a friendly dragon. But you can try if you want. Claire had never read to a child before, but she did her best with the different character voices. Lily giggled at her attempts and offered helpful suggestions for making the dragon sound more scary and the princess sound more brave. By the time the story was finished, Lily's eyelids were drooping. She curled up under her covers with a well-loved stuffed elephant. Claire, she said sleepily. Yes? I'm glad Dad brought you home. You're nice. Claire felt an unexpected tightness in her throat. Thank you, Lily. I think you're pretty wonderful too. Will you be here when I wake up tomorrow? The simple question carried so much weight. Claire realized that whatever game she'd thought she was playing had real consequences for this little girl. Yes, Claire said softly. I'll be here tomorrow. Lily smiled and closed her eyes. Within minutes, she was fast asleep. Claire sat quietly for a moment, watching Lily breathe peacefully. Something had changed during the evening, something she couldn't quite name. This wasn't just about keeping her word anymore. This little girl deserved better than to be caught up in an adult's foolish bet. She found Malcolm in the kitchen, cleaning up from dinner. He looked up when she came downstairs. How did bath time go? He asked. Good, I think. She's asleep. Claire hesitated. Malcolm, I need to tell you something. He set down the dish he was drying and gave her his full attention. I need you to know that I take this seriously now, Claire said. This isn't just about my stupid bet anymore. She's amazing, and she's been hurt before, hasn't she? Malcolm's expression grew guarded. What makes you say that? The way she asked if I was going to disappear. That's not something a kid asks unless they've had people disappear before. Malcolm was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Her mother left when she was 3, he said quietly. Just packed up one day while I was at work and was gone when we got home. No explanation, no goodbye. Lily asked for her every day for months. Claire felt sick. I'm so sorry. There have been a few other people since then. women I dated, thinking maybe Lily needed a mother figure. But every time things got serious, they'd realize what it meant to be with someone who had a kid. The responsibility was too much, or they wanted me to choose between them and Lily. Malcolm's voice was steady, but Claire could hear the pain underneath. Lily stopped asking about them after a while, but she still asks if people are going to disappear. And I just walked into her life and promised to be honest with her, Claire said, the weight of her actions settling on her shoulders. Yeah, you did. They stood in the quiet kitchen, the enormity of the situation finally hitting Claire fully. She'd thought she was just keeping her word, proving she could follow through on a commitment. But she'd actually involved a child who'd already been abandoned too many times. Malcolm, if you want to end this now, I understand, she said. We could get it annulled. Tell Lily I had to go away for work or something. I don't want to hurt her. Malcolm studied her face. Is that what you want? Claire thought about Lily's laugh during bath time, the way she'd shared her stories and asked Claire to read to her. She thought about the trust in those young eyes and the simple question, will you be here when I wake up tomorrow? No, Claire said quietly. I don't want to disappear on her, but I don't know how to be what she needs. Nobody knows how to be what a kid needs, Malcolm said. You just try your best and hope it's enough. Claire looked around the small, warm kitchen with its handmade drawings on the refrigerator and the breakfast dishes already set out for morning. This wasn't the life she'd planned, but maybe that wasn't such a bad thing. So, what happens now? She asked. Now we figure it out as we go, Malcolm said. But Claire? Yeah? Thank you for today, for being kind to her, for not making this harder than it had to be. Claire felt tears prick her eyes. She made it easy. She's incredible, Malcolm. You've done an amazing job with her. Something shifted in Malcolm's expression, a softness that hadn't been there before. She likes you. That doesn't happen often. I like her too. Claire paused. This is really crazy, isn't it? The craziest thing I've ever done, Malcolm agreed. But maybe crazy isn't always bad. They finished cleaning the kitchen together in comfortable silence. When Malcolm showed Claire to the guest room where she'd be staying, they both seemed to realize simultaneously that they were married strangers about to sleep in the same house with a 7-year-old who trusted them to figure things out. Good night, Claire, Malcolm said from the doorway of the guest room. Good night, husband, Claire replied, testing out the word. Malcolm smiled, the first real smile she'd seen from him all day. Good night, wife. After he left, Claire sat on the edge of the guest bed, still wearing her wedding dress from the courthouse ceremony that felt like it had happened weeks ago. She looked at the simple gold band on her finger and thought about the little girl sleeping down the hall who'd asked if she was going to disappear. Claire Whitmore had kept her word. She'd married a stranger, just like she'd promised. But as she changed into the pajamas she'd hastily packed that morning, she realized the bet was the least important thing about this whole situation now. Tomorrow, Lily would wake up expecting Claire to still be there. And Claire was determined not to let her down, even if she had no idea what she was doing. It was the scariest and most important promise she'd ever made. Claire woke to the sound of small feet running down the hallway. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then reality crashed back. She was in Malcolm Reed's guest room, legally married to a man she barely knew, responsible for not breaking a 7-year-old's heart. A soft knock came at her door. Claire, are you awake? Lily's voice was whisper loud, the way kids talked when they were trying to be quiet but couldn't quite manage it. I'm awake, Claire called back, sitting up and running her hands through her hair. Can I come in? Of course. Lily peeked around the door, still in her pajamas, her hair sticking up in several directions. Dad's making pancakes. It's Sunday, so it's pancake day. Do you want to help? Claire smiled despite her grogginess. I'd love to help. Give me 5 minutes to get dressed? Okay, but hurry up. Dad says the first batch is always the best batch. After Lily scampered away, Claire quickly changed into jeans and a sweater. She caught her reflection in the small mirror above the dresser. She looked tired, but oddly content. When was the last time someone had been excited to see her first thing in the morning? Downstairs, she found Malcolm in the kitchen, wearing an apron that said, "World's okayest dad," and flipping pancakes with professional skill. The kitchen smelled like vanilla and butter, and something else warm and comforting that Claire couldn't identify. "Good morning," Malcolm said, glancing up from the stove. "Sleep okay?" "Better than expected," Claire admitted. "What can I do to help?" Lily bounced in her chair at the small kitchen table. "You can be in charge of the syrup. Dad lets me pour it, but I always use too much. He says you might be better at the right amount." "I'm honored to be the syrup manager," Claire said solemnly, earning a giggle from Lily. The morning routine felt surprisingly natural. Malcolm cooked while Claire set the table and helped Lily wash her hands. They ate together while Lily chattered about her plans for the day. Apparently, there was a park nearby with swings that went super-duper high, and she wanted to show Claire the duck pond where she liked to feed the birds with old bread. "Can we go to the park today, Dad? Please?" Claire hasn't seen the ducks yet, and they're probably wondering where I've been. Malcolm looked at Claire questioningly. "What do you think? Are you up for meeting some ducks?" "I'd love to meet the ducks," Claire said, surprised by how much she meant it. An hour later, they walked to the small neighborhood park, Lily skipping ahead while Malcolm and Claire followed at a slower pace. The morning was crisp and clear, with the kind of autumn sunshine that made everything look golden. "She has a lot of energy," Claire observed, watching Lily run ahead to claim the best swing. "Always has. Even as a baby, she never sat still for long." Malcolm's voice was warm with affection. "Some days I can barely keep up with her." "You're a good father," Claire said quietly. "It's obvious how much she adores you." Malcolm was quiet for a moment. "I try. Some days I feel like I'm just making it up as I go along." "Isn't that what all parents do?" "Maybe, but most parents have help. Family, partners, someone to bounce ideas off of." He paused. "It's been just us for a long time." Claire felt the weight of that responsibility, the loneliness of making every decision alone. That must be hard. "Worth it, though," Malcolm said, watching Lily pump her legs to swing higher. "She's worth everything." They spent the morning at the park, pushing Lily on the swings, feeding ducks with bread Malcolm had brought, and playing a complicated game of tag that involved a lot of rules Claire didn't understand, but followed anyway. Lily was patient with Claire's confusion and generous with her laughter, when Claire inevitably messed up. By lunchtime, they were all tired and happy. Lily fell asleep in the car on the way home, her head tilted against the window, her cheek pressed against her seatbelt. "She's exhausted," Malcolm said quietly as they pulled into the driveway. "Should we wake her up?" "Let her sleep a few more minutes. She gets cranky if she doesn't get her rest." They sat in the parked car, listening to Lily's soft breathing from the back seat. It felt peaceful, this moment of quiet family life. Claire had never experienced anything like it. "Malcolm," she said softly, "can I ask you something?" "Sure." "What made you say yes yesterday? Really?" Malcolm was quiet for so long, Claire thought he wasn't going to answer. Finally, he spoke. "You kept calling it a bet, but it didn't sound like a game to you. It sounded like something that mattered." He paused. "And I guess I wanted to know what it felt like to say yes to something crazy for once." "Do you regret it?" Another long pause. Ask me again in a week. Monday morning brought reality crashing back. Claire woke early, disoriented by the unfamiliar room and the sound of Malcolm moving around downstairs. She checked her phone and found 17 missed calls from her mother. Her stomach dropped. The first text message made her feel sick. Claire Elizabeth Whitmore, call me immediately. What is this nonsense I'm hearing about a wedding? Claire sat on the edge of the bed, staring at her phone. She'd been so caught up in Lily and Malcolm and the strange new rhythm of family life that she'd forgotten about the world outside this house. Her mother had obviously heard about the courthouse ceremony. More texts followed, each one angrier than the last. The final one made Claire's hands shake. If you think you can embarrass this family with some publicity stunt, you are mistaken. Call me before I call you. Claire knew she had to make the call, but she wasn't ready for the conversation. Instead, she got dressed and went downstairs to help with Lily's morning routine. Malcolm was in the kitchen, packing Lily's lunch, while she sat at the table eating cereal and swinging her feet. Good morning, Claire said, trying to sound normal. Lily beamed at her. Morning. Dad's making me a peanut butter sandwich for lunch, but he cuts off the crusts because they're yucky. Do you like crusts? I've never really thought about it, Claire admitted. That's because you're a grown-up. Grown-ups don't think about important things like crusts and whether your socks match. Malcolm caught Claire's eye and smiled. Lily, finish your cereal. The bus comes in 20 minutes. After Lily left for school, the house felt too quiet. Malcolm was getting ready for work when Claire finally worked up the courage to tell him about her mother's calls. She knows, Claire said simply. Malcolm paused in the middle of putting on his jacket. Your mother? And probably everyone else by now. My mother has a way of finding things out. What does that mean for us? Claire's phone rang before she could answer. Her mother's name flashed on the screen. I have to take this, she said. Malcolm nodded. I'll give you privacy. But Claire, whatever she says, remember that you're an adult. You made your choice. Claire answered the phone with shaking hands. Mother. Claire Elizabeth, what in God's name have you done? Diane Whitmore's voice was ice cold with fury. I got married. To a security guard? A black security guard with a child? Claire, have you completely lost your mind? The casual racism in her mother's voice made Claire feel sick. His name is Malcolm Reed, and he's a good man. A good man? Claire? You met him on Friday night and married him on Saturday morning? This isn't some romantic comedy. This is your life, and you're throwing it away for what? Some ridiculous bet? Claire's heart sank. Of course her mother knew about the bet. Tessa called me this morning, worried sick about you, Diane continued. She told me everything. This whole thing is some kind of game to you, isn't it? Well, let me tell you something, young lady. It's not a game anymore, Claire interrupted. Oh, please. You think you can play house for a few weeks and then have this mess quietly annulled? You think there won't be consequences? What kind of consequences? The social consequences, Claire. The professional consequences. Do you think the Whitmore name means nothing? Do you think our reputation doesn't matter? Claire felt something cold settle in her stomach. What are you saying? I'm saying you have two choices. You can end this ridiculous charade immediately, publicly, and with a clear explanation that makes it obvious this was a temporary mistake. Or you can continue with this arrangement and lose everything that comes with being a Whitmore. You're threatening to cut me off? I'm telling you that actions have consequences. The family foundation, your trust fund, your position in society, all of that depends on you maintaining the standards this family expects. Claire sank into a chair at Malcolm's kitchen table, staring at the placemat decorated with Lily's drawings of stick figure families. And If I choose to stay married, then you choose to live without the benefits of being my daughter. Diane's voice softened slightly, taking on the tone she used when she wanted to sound reasonable. Claire, honey, I know you think this is about love or adventure or whatever romantic notion you've gotten into your head. But this man, this family, they're not your people. You don't belong in that world. How do you know what world I belong in? Because I'm your mother, and I've spent 28 years watching you try to pretend you're someone you're not. You think you want a simple life, a normal family, but you have no idea what that actually means. No idea what it costs. The line went quiet for a moment. When Diane spoke again, her voice was sad rather than angry. Come home, Claire. End this before it gets worse. Before you hurt that little girl by pretending to be something you're not. The call ended, leaving Claire staring at her phone in the sudden silence. Her mother's words echoed in her head. Before you hurt that little girl by pretending to be something you're not. Was that what she was doing? Pretending? Playing at being part of a family when she had no idea how to actually be part of one? The front door opened, and Malcolm's voice called out, Claire, I forgot my... He stopped when he saw her sitting at the table, probably reading the distress on her face. What happened? Claire looked up at him. This man she'd married without knowing his middle name or his favorite color, or what made him laugh. This man whose daughter had trusted her not to disappear. My mother wants me to end this, she said quietly. She's threatening to cut me off financially if I don't. Malcolm's expression didn't change, but something shuddered behind his eyes. And what do you want to do? The question was fair, but Claire realized she didn't have a clear answer. 3 days ago, her biggest worry had been whether to order the salmon or the chicken at another boring dinner party. Now she was part of a family, responsible for a little girl's happiness and being asked to choose between the life she'd always known and something she barely understood. I don't know, she admitted. Malcolm nodded slowly. Okay, well, when you figure it out, let me know. I need to get to work. He left without saying goodbye, and Claire sat alone in the kitchen, surrounded by the evidence of the life she'd stumbled into. Lily's drawings on the refrigerator, Malcolm's coffee mug in the sink, a grocery list written in careful handwriting that included the good cereal and more bubbles for Lily's bath. It was a real life, a good life. But was it her life? Claire spent the day wandering around the house, trying to figure out what she was supposed to do. She'd never been responsible for managing a household, never had to think about things like when the dishes needed to be done, or whether there was enough milk for breakfast. Everything in her apartment was handled by a cleaning service or delivered by apps. But Malcolm's house was different. It required attention, care, participation. She found herself making the beds, loading the dishwasher, and even attempting to fold the laundry Malcolm had left in the basket by the couch. When 3:30 came, she realized she needed to be at the bus stop to meet Lily. The responsibility hit her suddenly. A 7-year-old was counting on her to be there. Lily bounded off the school bus with a huge smile and a painted handprint art project clutched in her hands. Claire, look what I made in art class. It's a turkey, but I made the feathers rainbow colors because regular turkey colors are boring. It's beautiful, Claire said, meaning it. Your dad is going to love it. Where is Dad? He's still at work. He'll be home soon. Claire hoped that was true. She realized she didn't actually know Malcolm's work schedule. They walked home together, Lily chattering about her day, her friends, and the boy in her class who thought he was funny, but mostly just made loud noises during quiet time. Can I have a snack? Lily asked as soon as they got home. Of course. What kind of snack? Lily thought seriously. Apples with peanut butter. But Dad cuts the apples into slices, and they have to be the same size, or it doesn't taste right. Claire had never cut an apple for a child before, but she did her best to make even slices. Lily supervised carefully, offering helpful suggestions about which pieces were too big and which were just right. They were sitting at the kitchen table, sharing the apple slices, when Lily asked the question Claire had been dreading. "Are you sad today?" Claire looked up, surprised. "What makes you think I'm sad?" "You look sad, like when Dad looks sad but tries to pretend he doesn't." Lily tilted her head. "Did someone hurt your feelings?" The simple, direct question caught Claire off guard. How was she supposed to explain adult complications to a 7-year-old? "Sort of," Claire said carefully. "I had a hard conversation with my mom today." "Oh," Lily nodded wisely. "Moms can be complicated. That's what Dad says about my first mom. He says she loved me, but she was too complicated to stay." Claire's heart ached at the matter-of-fact way Lily talked about her mother's abandonment. "I'm sorry that happened to you," Claire said softly. "It's okay. I don't really remember her much anyway. And Dad says sometimes people leave because they're scared, not because of anything you did wrong." The wisdom in those words hit Claire hard. "Your dad sounds very smart." "He is. He knows everything about everything, except how to braid hair. He's terrible at braids." Lily finished her apple slice and looked at Claire hopefully. "Do you know how to braid hair?" "I do, actually." "Can you teach me?" Dad tried to watch videos on his phone, but it never looks right when he does it. They spent the next hour on the living room floor, Claire teaching Lily how to braid while some cartoon played on the television. It was peaceful, domestic, normal in a way Claire had never experienced. When Malcolm came home at 6, he found them sitting together on the couch, Lily proudly wearing a neatly braided ponytail. "Look, Dad! Claire knows how to do braids, and she cut my apple slices perfectly." Malcolm's eyes met Claire's over Lily's head. She couldn't read his expression, but some of the tension from the morning seemed to have faded. "That's great, baby," he said, kissing the top of Lily's head. "Did you have a good day at school?" Lily launched into a detailed description of her day, while Malcolm listened with his usual attention. Claire watched them together, seeing the easy affection, the shared jokes, the comfortable rhythm of a family who'd figured out how to be happy together, despite difficult circumstances. After dinner, while Lily worked on her homework at the kitchen table, Malcolm and Claire found themselves alone on the back porch. "How was your day?" Malcolm asked. "Different," Claire said. "I've never been responsible for a kid. Before, I was terrified I'd mess something up." "But you didn't." "How can you tell?" "Because Lily's happy, and because she asked me 3 times when you'd be home from work tomorrow." Malcolm paused. "You don't have to do this, you know. The whole domestic thing. That wasn't part of our agreement." Claire thought about the satisfaction she'd felt folding tiny socks, the pride in cutting apple slices the right way, the warmth of teaching Lily something new. "Maybe I wanted to," she said. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the sun set behind the neighbor's fence. "Claire," Malcolm said finally, "about this morning. Your mother's ultimatum. Have you decided what you want to do?" Claire had been dreading this conversation all day. She looked through the window at Lily, bent over her math homework with serious concentration, and felt her heart clench. "I keep thinking about what you said, about how nobody knows how to be what a kid needs. You just try your best and hope it's enough." "Yeah? What if my best isn't enough? What if I'm just some spoiled rich girl playing house until she gets bored?" Malcolm turned to look at her directly. "Is that what you think you're doing?" "I don't know. Maybe. Probably." Claire's voice was barely a whisper. I've never had to think about anyone but myself before. I don't know if I'm capable of being what Lily needs. You want to know what I think? Claire nodded. I think you braided my daughter's hair today because it made her happy. I think you worried about cutting her apple slices right because you didn't want to disappoint her. I think you met her at the bus stop because you promised you'd be there. Malcolm's voice was gentle. Those aren't the actions of someone who's just playing house. But what if I hurt her? What if I leave like everyone else has? What if you don't? The simple question hung in the air between them. What if she didn't leave? What if she stayed and figured out how to be part of this family? What if she chose them over everything else she'd ever known? My mother thinks I'm pretending to be someone I'm not, Claire said. Are you? Claire thought about her day, the satisfaction of small domestic tasks, the joy in Lily's laugh, the sense of purpose she'd never felt in her old life. Maybe I'm pretending to be someone I could be, she said finally. Malcolm smiled, the first real smile she'd seen from him since the morning phone call. That's not pretending, he said. That's growing up. The next morning brought a new crisis. Claire woke to the sound of her phone buzzing insistently on the nightstand. She squinted at the screen and saw dozens of text messages from numbers she didn't recognize. The first one made her stomach drop. Saw the news about your charity marriage. How much is he paying you? The second was worse. Does your new husband know you're just slumming it for attention? Claire sat up in bed, her heart racing. She opened her web browser and searched for her name. The results made her feel sick. Someone had leaked the story to a gossip blog, complete with photos of her and Malcolm leaving the courthouse. The headline read, Heiress's shocking bet, rich girl marries poor security guard on a dare. The article was full of details that could only have come from someone who knew about the bet. Someone who'd been there Friday night. Claire's phone rang. Tessa's name appeared on the screen. Claire, I'm so sorry, Tessa said as soon as Claire answered. I don't know how this happened. I swear I didn't tell anyone, but somehow... Tessa, what did you do? I didn't do anything. I was at brunch yesterday with some friends, and I might have mentioned the bet, but I didn't think... You told people about the bet? Claire's voice rose. Just a few people. And I made them promise not to say anything, but then Sarah posted something on social media about how crazy you were, and then someone else shared it, and... Claire hung up the phone and sank back onto the bed. This was a disaster. The story made Malcolm sound like he was taking advantage of her, made their marriage sound like a joke, and painted Lily as nothing more than a prop in Claire's wealthy girl rebellion. Downstairs, she could hear Malcolm's voice, low and tense. She got dressed quickly and went to find him. He was in the kitchen, standing with his back to the room, talking quietly into his phone. Lily sat at the table eating cereal, but her usual morning chatter was absent. I understand your concern, Malcolm was saying. Yes, sir. I'll handle it. He hung up and turned around, his expression grim. Dad? Lily's voice was small. Are people saying mean things about us? Malcolm's jaw tightened. Nothing for you to worry about, baby. Just grown-up stuff. But Claire could see the worry in Lily's eyes, the way she kept glancing between them. Kids always knew when something was wrong, even when adults tried to hide it. Malcolm, Claire said quietly. Who was that on the phone? My supervisor. Apparently the story is making rounds on social media. People are calling my workplace, asking questions. He paused. Asking if I'm some kind of con man. Claire felt like she was going to be sick. I'm so sorry. I had no idea. Of course you didn't. Malcolm's voice was carefully controlled. Because this is what happens in your world, isn't it? Stories get leaked, people become entertainment, and the consequences are just collateral damage. That's not fair, isn't it? Malcolm gestured toward his phone. My boss wants to see me this afternoon to discuss whether this situation affects my ability to do my job. Lily's going to hear about this at school. Our neighbors are probably reading about us right now. Claire looked at Lily, who was pushing her cereal around in her bowl, clearly listening to every word. Maybe we should talk about this later? Claire said quietly, nodding toward Lily. Maybe we should talk about this now, Malcolm replied, because in about an hour, I'm going to have to send my daughter to school, where kids and teachers are going to have questions about her family. Questions I don't know how to answer. The pain in his voice was like a physical blow. Claire realized that in trying to keep her word, she'd exposed this family to exactly the kind of scrutiny and judgment Malcolm had been trying to protect Lily from. I can fix this, she said desperately. I can call the blog, tell them the truth. What truth? Malcolm asked. That you married a stranger on a bet? That you're playing house until you get bored? That we're both lying to my 7-year-old daughter about what this is? Each word hit Claire like a slap, because he wasn't wrong. They were lying to Lily, even if the lie had started to feel like something more. I don't want to lie to her, Claire said quietly. Then tell me, Malcolm said, his voice breaking slightly. What exactly is the truth? Claire looked at Lily, who had stopped pretending to eat and was watching them with wide, worried eyes. She thought about the past few days, the pancakes and the park, and the braided hair, and the simple joy of being needed by someone who trusted her completely. The truth is that I married you because of a stupid bet, Claire said, looking directly at Malcolm. But I'm staying because I care about both of you. Because this feels more real than anything else in my life has ever felt. Malcolm stared at her for a long moment. Then Lily spoke up in a small voice. Are you going to get divorced? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Claire looked at this little girl who'd been abandoned before, who'd learned not to trust promises because promises got broken. I don't want to, Claire said honestly. But you might have to? Lily's voice was even smaller now. Claire knelt down beside Lily's chair, taking her small hands in hers. Lily, I need you to know something. Whatever happens between your dad and me, it won't be because of you. You are perfect, and you deserve to have people in your life who choose to stay. Lily nodded solemnly, then looked at her father. Dad, do you want Claire to stay? Malcolm's eyes met Claire's over Lily's head. In them, Claire saw everything. The hope he was afraid to trust, the love he was scared to admit, the fear of being hurt again. Yes, he said quietly. I want her to stay. Then she should stay, Lily said with 7-year-old logic. People who want to be together should be together. That's what families do. Claire felt tears prick her eyes. Is that what we are? A family? Lily considered this seriously. Well, you live here, and you cut my apples, and you know how to braid hair, and Dad smiles more when you're here. That sounds like family to me. Malcolm let out a shaky laugh. Out of the mouths of babes. Claire stood up, decision crystallizing in her mind. Then we're a family, and families protect each other. She picked up her phone and started dialing. Who are you calling? Malcolm asked. My mother, Claire said. It's time I made some things clear. The phone rang twice before Diane Whitmore answered. Claire, thank God, I've been seeing these horrible stories online. Please tell me you're ready to end this nonsense. Actually, Mother, I'm calling to tell you that I've made my choice. Oh, thank goodness. When should we schedule the press conference? I think if we frame this as a temporary lapse in judgment. No? Claire interrupted. I'm not ending my marriage. I'm choosing it. The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. Claire, you cannot be serious. I'm completely serious. Malcolm and Lily are my family now, and I'm going to protect them the way they've protected me. Protected you? From what? From being the person you raised me to be. Cold, judgmental, more concerned with appearances than with actual human beings. Claire's voice grew stronger with each word. I'm choosing love over money, Mother. I'm choosing real over easy. You're choosing to throw away everything you've ever had for a man you barely know and his child. I'm choosing to become someone I can be proud of. Another long pause. When Diane spoke again, her voice was ice cold. Then you've made your choice. Don't come crying to me when this fantasy falls apart and you realize what you've given up. The line went dead. Claire stared at her phone for a moment, then looked up to find Malcolm and Lily both watching her with identical expressions of concern and hope. So, she said, trying to keep her voice light, I think I'm officially disowned. Lily frowned. What does that mean? It means my mother is very angry with me for choosing you guys. That's silly, Lily said matter-of-factly. We're awesome. She should be happy you get to be part of our family. Malcolm stepped closer to Claire, his expression serious. Are you sure about this? There's no going back from that conversation. Claire thought about her trust fund, her connections, her safety net. Then she looked around the small kitchen with its mismatched chairs and finger-painted art on the refrigerator, and she realized she'd never felt safer in her life. I'm sure, she said. We're in this together now. All of us. Malcolm's smile was like sunrise after a long night. All of us, he agreed. Lily clapped her hands. Does this mean Claire gets to stay forever? If she wants to, Malcolm said, looking directly at Claire. I want to, Claire said without hesitation. Good, Lily said, jumping up from her chair. Because I already told Mrs. Peterson you were my bonus grown-up, and it would be embarrassing if I had to take it back. Claire laughed through the tears she hadn't realized were falling. We can't have that. As Malcolm left for work and Lily gathered her school things, Claire felt something settle in her chest that she'd never experienced before. It was peace, she realized. The peace that came from choosing the right thing, even when it was the hard thing. Her phone buzzed with another nasty text from a stranger, but she deleted it without reading it fully. Let them say what they wanted. She had something they couldn't understand. A real family, built on truth and choice and love, and she wasn't giving that up for anything. 2 weeks after the news story broke, Claire was learning that standing up to her mother was the easy part. Living with the consequences was much harder. The phone calls from reporters had finally stopped, but the damage was done. Malcolm's co-workers whispered when he walked by. Parents at Lily's school stared at Claire during pickup. Even the neighbors seemed to watch their house with curious eyes whenever she came and went. But the worst part was watching Malcolm try to pretend none of it bothered him. Another job interview got canceled, he said quietly one Thursday evening after Lily had gone to bed. They were sitting in the living room, Claire grading some of Lily's homework while Malcolm paid bills on his laptop. Claire looked up from the math worksheet. Canceled? Why? They said they were going in a different direction. But the timing seems pretty convenient, doesn't it? Malcolm's voice was carefully neutral, the way it got when he was trying not to show how much something hurt. This was the third interview that had been mysteriously canceled in the past week. Malcolm had been looking for a better position, something with more regular hours and better benefits for Lily. But every time he got close to an opportunity, something went wrong. Maybe it's just bad luck, Claire offered, though they both knew better. Maybe. Malcolm closed his laptop with a sharp click. Or maybe employers don't want to hire the guy who married a rich girl for money. You didn't marry me for money. Try explaining that to people who've already made up their minds. Claire set down the homework and moved to sit beside him on the couch. I'm sorry. This is all my fault. It's not your fault that people are small-minded. It's my fault they know about us at all. Claire reached for his hand. Malcolm, maybe I should talk to my mother. See if she can make some calls. Get the story corrected. No. Malcolm's response was immediate and firm. We don't need her help. But if it would fix things? Claire, listen to me. Malcolm turned to face her fully. The minute we ask your family for help, we prove everyone right. We prove that this marriage is about your money and connections, that I can't take care of my own family. That's not what it would prove. Isn't it? Malcolm's voice was tired. I've been taking care of Lily by myself for 4 years. I've never needed anyone's charity before, and I'm not starting now. Claire understood his pride, but watching him struggle while she had resources sitting unused felt wrong. So, what do we do? We keep trying. Something will work out. But Claire could see the strain in the tight line of his shoulders, the worry he tried to hide when he thought she wasn't looking. Bills were getting harder to manage with his reduced hours. The security company had started giving him fewer shifts, claiming budget cuts that seemed to only affect him. Friday afternoon brought a new crisis. Claire was folding laundry when her phone rang. The caller ID showed Lily's school. Mrs. Reed. The voice belonged to Mrs. Peterson, Lily's teacher. I'm calling because there was an incident today involving Lily. Could you come in to discuss it? Claire's heart jumped. Is she hurt? No, she's not injured, but I think we need to talk. Is it possible for you to come in now? 20 minutes later, Claire found herself sitting in a small classroom across from Mrs. Peterson, with Lily beside her looking miserable. What happened? Claire asked gently. Some of the older kids were saying things, Lily said in a small voice. About you and Dad, about how we're probably going to be on TV and stuff. Mrs. Peterson leaned forward. Lily got very upset and ended up pushing one of the boys who was teasing her. That's not like her at all. Claire felt her heart break a little. What exactly were they saying? Things they heard at home, I'm sure. You know how kids pick up on adult conversations? Mrs. Peterson's tone was kind, but tired. Unfortunately, this kind of situation can be very disruptive for everyone. The implication was clear. Lily's presence was becoming a problem for the school because of the attention their family was receiving. Mrs. Peterson, Claire said carefully, are you asking us to remove Lily from the school? I'm not asking anything. I'm simply saying that sometimes a change of environment can be beneficial for everyone involved. Claire felt anger rise in her chest. Lily has done nothing wrong. She's being punished for adult decisions she had no part in making. I understand your frustration, Mrs. Reed, but we have to consider all our students' well-being. The meeting ended with no resolution, just a vague suggestion that they consider their options. Claire walked Lily to the car in silence, both of them lost in their own thoughts. Are they going to make me change schools? Lily asked as they drove home. Claire gripped the steering wheel tighter. Not if I have anything to say about it. But what if they do? What if the new school kids are mean too? Then we'll figure it out. Together. Claire glanced in the rearview mirror at Lily's worried face. Lily, I need you to know something. None of this is your fault. Adults are being stupid, and I'm sorry you're caught in the middle of it. Dad says people are just scared of things that are different. Your dad is very smart. Are you scared? The question caught Claire off guard. Was she scared? She thought about the canceled job, interviews, the school meeting, the way people looked at them when they went grocery shopping together. A little, she admitted, but not of being different. I'm scared of people hurting you and your dad because of me. Lily was quiet for a moment. Then she said, maybe we should run away, like in the movies. Go somewhere nobody knows us. Claire almost smiled despite everything. Where would we go? Somewhere with good pancakes and nice ducks, and maybe a school where the kids are nicer. By the time they got home, Claire had made a decision. She found Malcolm in the kitchen starting dinner prep, moving around the small space with the efficient motions of someone who'd been cooking for his family for years. How was school pickup? He asked, without looking up from the vegetables he was chopping. We need to talk. Something in her tone made him look up. What happened? Claire told him about the meeting with Mrs. Peterson, about the teasing, about Lily's question regarding running away. Malcolm's expression grew darker with each detail. They want her to leave, he said when she finished. They didn't say that exactly. They didn't have to. Malcolm set down his knife with more force than necessary. Lily's been at that school since kindergarten. She has friends there, teachers who know her, and now they want her gone because her family is inconvenient. So, what do we do? Malcolm was quiet for a long moment, staring out the kitchen window at the backyard where Lily's bike sat beside the tire swing. Maybe we should consider it, he said finally. Consider what? Moving. Starting over somewhere else. Somewhere the gossip hasn't followed us yet. Claire felt something cold settle in her stomach. Move where? I don't know. Maybe another city? Another state even. I've got security experience. I could find work anywhere. Malcolm, you can't be serious. This is your home. Lily's home. This was our home when people respected us. When Lily could go to school without being bullied. When I could find work without having to explain my personal life. His voice was quiet but firm. Maybe it's time to admit this isn't working. So we just give up? Let them win? This isn't about winning or losing, Claire. It's about what's best for Lily. Before Claire could respond, Lily herself appeared in the kitchen doorway, her backpack slung over one shoulder. Are we really moving? She asked in a small voice. Malcolm and Claire exchanged glances. How long had she been listening? We're just talking, baby, Malcolm said gently. Grown-ups sometimes need to discuss options. But I don't want to move, Lily said, tears starting to gather in her eyes. I like my room and my school and Mr. Grant next door. If we move, I won't know anybody. Claire knelt down to Lily's level. What if the kids at your new school were nicer? But what if they're not? What if they're even meaner? Lily wiped her nose with the back of her hand. And what if my new teacher doesn't like the way I draw turkeys? The simple, honest worry in Lily's voice made Claire's heart ache. This little girl had already been through too much upheaval in her short life. How could they ask her to start over again because adults couldn't handle their choices? You know what? Claire said suddenly. We're not moving. Malcolm looked at her in surprise. Claire? No, listen to me. Both of you. Claire stood up, feeling something fierce and protective rising in her chest. We're not running away. We're not letting small-minded people chase us out of our home. And we're definitely not letting them hurt our family. But the school, Lily started. The school can learn to deal with it, and if they can't, we'll find a better school. One that actually deserves to have you as a student. Malcolm was staring at her with an expression she couldn't read. Claire, it's not that simple. Why not? Why can't it be that simple? Claire felt her voice getting stronger. You said families protect each other, right? Well, I'm protecting this family, starting now. The next morning, Claire did something she hadn't done in years. She called her college roommate, Sarah Kim, who is now a successful public relations executive in the city. Claire Whitmore, Sarah said when she answered the phone. I've been wondering when you'd call. I saw the news. Yeah, it's been complicated. I bet. So what can I do for you? And please tell me you're not calling to ask me to make this all go away. Claire smiled despite everything. Sarah had always been direct. Actually, I'm calling to ask for the opposite. I want to make sure people know the real story. Okay, now I'm interested. What's the real story? The real story is that I married an incredible man who's raising an amazing daughter, and instead of celebrating that, people are trying to tear us apart because it doesn't fit their narrow idea of how the world should work. And you want to fight back? I want to fight back. Sarah was quiet for a moment. This could get messy, Claire. Are you sure you're ready for that level of public scrutiny? Claire thought about Lily's tears, Malcolm's canceled interviews, the way people looked at their family like they were a scandal instead of just people trying to love each other. I'm ready, she said. All right then, let's talk strategy. The plan Sarah developed was simple but effective. Instead of hiding from the attention, they would control it. Claire would give one interview to a reputable journalist, telling their story honestly and completely. They would show people who they really were, not the caricatures painted by gossip blogs. Malcolm was skeptical when Claire explained the plan that evening. More publicity isn't going to solve our problems, he said. It's just going to create new ones. Maybe, or maybe it will show people that we're not the villains they think we are. And what if it backfires? What if it makes things worse for Lily? Claire had thought about this, had spent hours weighing the risks. What if it makes things better? They were sitting on the back porch again, their voices low, so Lily wouldn't overhear from her bedroom upstairs. The autumn air was getting colder, and Claire pulled Malcolm's jacket tighter around her shoulders. I talked to my friend Sarah today, Claire continued. She thinks we have a good story to tell. Not a story about a rich girl slumming it, but a story about a real family dealing with real prejudice. Is that what we are? Malcolm asked quietly. A real family? The question hung in the air between them. They'd been living as a family for weeks now, but they'd never talked about what that meant beyond the practical arrangements. I think we are, Claire said carefully. At least, I hope we are. Malcolm turned to look at her directly. Claire, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. Okay. If your mother called tomorrow and said she was sorry, that she wanted you back, that she'd restore your trust fund and your old life, would you go? The question should have been easy to answer. A month ago, it would have been easy. But now, sitting on this back porch, wearing Malcolm's jacket, thinking about Lily's laugh and the way Malcolm smiled when he thought no one was looking, Claire realized her old life felt like something that had happened to someone else. No, she said without hesitation. I wouldn't go. Even though this is harder? Even though people judge us and things are uncertain? Especially because of that. Claire reached for his hand. Malcolm, my old life was easy, but it was also empty. I never had to fight for anything that mattered because nothing really mattered to me. But you and Lily, you matter. This family matters, and I want to fight for it. Malcolm was quiet for a long moment, his thumb tracing circles on the back of her hand. I've been thinking about something, he said finally. What? About what would happen if we made this real. Really real, not just legal real. Claire's heart skipped. What do you mean? I mean, what if we stopped pretending this is temporary? What if we admitted that somewhere along the way, this stopped being about your bet and started being about us? Claire turned to face him fully, searching his expression in the dim light from the kitchen window. Are you saying you want this to be real? I'm saying it already is real, at least for me. I'm saying I love you, Claire, not because you married me or because you're helping with Lily, but because of who you are. Because you braid her hair and worry about cutting her apples right and stand up to your mother for us. Because you chose us when you could have chosen easy. The words hit Claire like a warm wave, washing away all the doubt and uncertainty she'd been carrying. I love you too, she said, the words feeling both surprising and inevitable. I love you, and I love Lily, and I love this crazy, complicated life we're building together. Malcolm's smile was soft and real and full of something that looked like hope. So what do we do about it? We tell the world, Claire said firmly. We tell them that this is real, that we're a family, and that we're not going anywhere. Malcolm leaned closer, his forehead touching hers. You sure about this? Once we go public with the real story, there's no taking it back. I'm sure. Are you? Instead of answering with words, Malcolm kissed her. It was their first real kiss, not the brief peck they'd shared at the courthouse ceremony, but a kiss that said everything they'd been too scared to say out loud. A kiss that tasted like promise and commitment and the future they were choosing together. When they broke apart, Claire felt dizzy with happiness and certainty. So, she said, slightly breathless, should we tell Lily first? Tell me what? They turned to find Lily standing in the doorway, wearing her pajamas and holding her stuffed elephant. Hey, baby, Malcolm said, immediately shifting into dad mode. What are you doing out of bed? I heard voices and wanted to make sure nobody was sad anymore. Lily padded over to them, her bare feet silent on the porch boards. Were you kissing? Claire felt her cheeks heat up, but Malcolm just laughed. Yeah, we were kissing. Finally, Lily said with 7-year-old exasperation. I was wondering when you guys were going to figure that out. You were? Claire asked, surprised. Dad gets that smiley look when you're around, and you get that happy voice when you talk to him. Plus, you've been sleeping in our house for weeks and weeks. I figured you'd probably kiss eventually. Malcolm and Claire looked at each other over Lily's head, both trying not to laugh. So, Lily continued, climbing onto the porch swing between them. Does this mean we're definitely a real family now? Like, permanently? Would you like that? Claire asked carefully. Lily thought about it seriously, the way she always did with important questions. Well, you're really good at braids, and you never forget to cut the crusts off my sandwiches, and you laugh at Dad's jokes even when they're not funny. Plus, you stayed even when people were being mean about us. That's what real family does. Is that a yes? Malcolm asked. That's a definitely yes, Lily said firmly. But can I ask one more question? Of course. If you guys get married for real, do I get to be in the wedding? Because Mrs. Peterson says flower girls get to wear fancy dresses and throw flowers around, and that sounds amazing. Claire felt tears prick her eyes. Lily, we're already married. I know, but that was the boring kind of married. I mean the fun kind, with a party and a dress and cake. Lily looked between them hopefully. We could do it in Mr. Grant's backyard. He has really good flowers. Malcolm squeezed Claire's hand. What do you think? Want to get married again, the fun way this time? With flower girls and cake and everything? Especially the everything. Claire looked at this man and this child, who had somehow become her whole world, and felt her heart overflow with a happiness she'd never imagined possible. "Yes," she said. "Let's get married the fun way." Lily clapped her hands excitedly. "This is going to be the best wedding ever. Can we have chocolate cake? And can Bubbles be in the ceremony too?" As they sat on the porch swing planning a wedding that would be everything their courthouse ceremony hadn't been, Claire realized something profound had shifted. She was no longer the woman who'd made a reckless bet to prove she was brave. She was someone's wife, someone's mother figure, someone's choice. And for the first time in her life, she was exactly who she was meant to be. The interview with Sarah's journalist friend was scheduled for the following week. But before that, Claire had one more conversation to have. Sunday morning, while Malcolm and Lily were at the park feeding ducks, Claire called her mother. "Claire," Diane said when she answered, her voice carefully neutral. "I wasn't expecting to hear from you. I wanted you to know that I'm giving an interview this week, about Malcolm, about our marriage, about why I made the choice I did." "Oh, Claire." Diane's voice was tired. "Haven't you caused enough trouble?" "I've caused trouble by choosing love over image, by refusing to live a lie for the sake of appearances." Claire took a deep breath. "But I'm calling because I want you to hear this from me first. I'm happy, Mom. Really, truly happy in a way I never was before." "Happiness isn't everything, Claire. Security, stability, reputation. I have all of that, just not the way you taught me to want it." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "Are you calling to invite me to reconcile?" Diane asked finally. "I'm calling to invite you to meet your granddaughter," Claire said quietly. The word hung in the air like a bridge between them. "She's not actually my granddaughter, Claire. You're not her biological mother." "No, but I'm her family. And if you want to be part of my life, you'll be part of hers too." Another long silence. "What's she like?" Diane asked, and for the first time, her voice held something other than disapproval. "She's brilliant and funny and kind. She draws rainbow turkeys and thinks fish can do tricks and worries about whether her socks match. She's been through things no child should have to go through, but she still believes in the goodness of people. She's everything I hope I can become." Claire could hear her mother breathing on the other end of the line. "And her father?" "Is the best man I've ever known. Not the richest or the most connected, but the best. He makes pancakes every Sunday and checks for monsters under the bed and has never broken a promise to his daughter. He's teaching me what real strength looks like." "Claire, I know you think I'm throwing my life away, Mom, but I'm not. I'm finally building a life worth having." When the call ended, Claire wasn't sure if it had gone well or badly. Her mother hadn't hung up on her, but she hadn't agreed to meet Lily either. It was progress, Claire supposed. Small, uncertain progress. But as she heard Malcolm and Lily's voices coming up the front walk, Lily chattering excitedly about the baby ducks they'd seen, Claire realized it didn't matter. She had her family, her real family, and they were enough. More than enough. They were everything. "Claire," Lily called as she burst through the front door. "The mama duck had 5 babies, and one of them was really tiny, and Dad says maybe we can visit them every Sunday if we're really quiet and respectful." "That sounds perfect," Claire said, catching Lily in a hug. Over Lily's head, Malcolm smiled at Claire with an expression that held love and gratitude and the promise of all the Sundays to come. And Claire smiled back, knowing she was exactly where she belonged. The interview changed everything. Claire had expected some attention from the magazine piece, but she hadn't anticipated the overwhelming response. Within hours of the article going live, her phone was buzzing with calls from talk show producers, book agents, and reporters wanting to dig deeper into their story. The piece itself had been beautiful. The journalist, Maria Santos, had spent an entire afternoon at their house, watching Claire help Lily with homework while Malcolm cooked dinner. She'd captured the small moments, Lily correcting Claire's pronunciation while reading together, Malcolm teaching Claire his secret to perfect grilled cheese, the three of them laughing over a board game that somehow took 2 hours to finish. The headline read, "Love Wins, How a Marriage of Convenience Became the Real Thing." "Listen to this," Malcolm said, reading from his phone at breakfast 3 days later. Someone commented, "This family gives me hope that love still exists." Another person wrote, "My kids and I are going through a divorce, and seeing how Lily talks about her bonus mom makes me believe we'll find our people too." Claire looked up from braiding Lily's hair. "Really?" "There's hundreds of them. People sharing their own stories about unexpected families, blended families, families that don't look traditional but are full of love." Lily twisted around to look at Claire. "Are we famous now?" "A little bit, maybe," Claire said carefully. "Cool. Can we get a swimming pool?" Malcolm laughed. "Fame doesn't automatically come with a swimming pool, baby." "Well, that's disappointing." But the positive response brought unexpected opportunities. Malcolm's phone started ringing again, not with canceled interviews this time, but with actual job offers. Security companies that had previously shown no interest suddenly wanted to meet with him. "It's like the article made me human to them," Malcolm told Claire after accepting a position with a firm that specialized in corporate security. Better pay, regular hours, and benefits that would help with Lily's future college fund. The school situation improved too. Mrs. Peterson called to apologize for the earlier meeting, explaining that several parents had reached out after reading the article to express support for their family. The teasing stopped, and Lily came home with new friends who thought having a story in a magazine was super cool. Even their neighbors seemed different. Mr. Grant next door, who had always been kind but distant, started joining them for Sunday morning pancakes. Other families on the block began waving when they walked by, striking up conversations about normal things like the weather and weekend plans. "People aren't scared of us anymore," Lily observed one evening as they walked home from the park. "They smile now instead of doing that staring thing." She was right. The fear and judgment in people's eyes had been replaced with something that looked like curiosity, even admiration. But the biggest surprise came 2 weeks later. Claire was sorting through the mail when she found an envelope with her mother's familiar handwriting. Inside was a short note. "Claire, I read the magazine article. Perhaps I was hasty in my judgment. Would it be possible for me to meet Lily and to apologize to all of you?" Your mother Claire stared at the note for a long moment, her heart doing complicated things in her chest. "What's that?" Malcolm asked, coming into the kitchen with Lily's backpack slung over his shoulder. "A letter from my mother. She wants to meet Lily." Malcolm set the backpack down carefully. "How do you feel about that?" "Terrified," Claire admitted. "What if she's still disapproving? What if she says something that hurts Lily's feelings? And what if she doesn't?" Claire looked at him, this man who always managed to see possibilities where she saw problems. "Do you think it's worth the risk?" "I think Lily deserves the chance to have as many people love her as possible," Malcolm said gently. "And I think your mother might surprise you." They decided to meet at the park, neutral territory where Lily would be comfortable, and they could leave easily if things went badly. Diane Whitmore arrived exactly on time, dressed in a tailored coat that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. But her expression was softer than Claire had seen in years, nervous in a way that made her seem more human. "Mom," Claire said, standing as her mother approached their picnic table. "Thank you for coming." "Thank you for inviting me." Diane's eyes moved to Malcolm, who stood and extended his hand. "Mrs. Whitmore, it's nice to meet you officially." Diane shook his hand, studying his face. Mr. Reed, I owe you an apology. Several apologies, actually. But before anyone could respond, Lily came running over from the playground, her cheeks flushed from the slide. Dad, there's a dog over there that looks exactly like the one in my book about. Oh! She stopped short when she saw Diane, suddenly shy. Lily, Claire said gently, I'd like you to meet my mother. Mom, this is Lily. Diane knelt down slowly, bringing herself to Lily's eye level. Hello, Lily. I've heard so many wonderful things about you. Lily tilted her head, studying Diane with the same careful attention she gave to everything new. Are you really Claire's mom? I am. How come you haven't visited before? Claire's been living with us for ages and ages. Diane's composure wavered slightly. I made some mistakes. I wasn't very nice to Claire when she told me about your family. Oh. Lily considered this seriously. Did you apologize? Not properly. Not until now. Lily nodded with 7-year-old wisdom. Dad says apologizing is important, but you have to mean it. Do you mean it? Yes, Diane said, her voice thick with unexpected emotion. I very much mean it. Okay then, want to see the playground? The swings go really high, and there's a twisty slide that's super fun. Just like that, Lily took Diane's hand and led her toward the playground equipment, chattering about the various attractions as if she were giving a tour to an honored guest. Claire and Malcolm watched them go, Diane listening intently as Lily explained the proper technique for the monkey bars. She's good with her, Malcolm observed. Lily's good with everyone. She sees the best in people before she sees anything else. They spent 2 hours at the park. Diane pushed Lily on the swings, helped her navigate the monkey bars, and listened with genuine interest as Lily explained her theory about why ducks were probably smarter than most people realized. As the afternoon wound down, Diane approached Claire while Malcolm was helping Lily collect pine cones for a craft project. She's extraordinary, Diane said quietly. She is. And Malcolm, he's not what I expected. What did you expect? Diane was quiet for a moment. Someone who was using you. Someone who saw an opportunity and took it. She paused. But watching him with Lily, watching the way he looks at you? I was wrong, Claire. About all of it. Claire felt something tight in her chest begin to loosen. It's okay, Mom. No, it's not okay. I was so concerned with what other people would think that I nearly lost my daughter. I nearly missed out on knowing that wonderful little girl. Diane's voice broke slightly. I've been thinking about something since I read that article. What? About how you said Lily has been through things no child should have to go through. About how her mother left. Diane looked toward Lily, who was showing Malcolm a particularly interesting pine cone. I left too, didn't I? Maybe not physically, but I abandoned you when you needed me to support your choice. The words hit Claire harder than she'd expected. Mom, I want to do better, Claire. I want to be part of this family, if you'll let me. All of you. That evening, after Diane had gone home with promises to call soon and an invitation for Sunday pancakes, the three of them sat in the living room processing the day. I like your mom, Lily announced from her spot on the floor, where she was arranging her pine cones in order of size. She's fancy, but she's nice, and she knows a lot about flowers. She used to have beautiful gardens when I was little, Claire said. Maybe she could help us plant flowers in our backyard. Dad's not very good with plants. He killed the basil. Hey, Malcolm protested from the couch where Claire was curled up beside him. That basil died of natural causes. Dad, you forgot to water it for 2 weeks. Like I said, natural causes. Claire laughed, feeling lighter than she had in months. The conversation with her mother had healed something she hadn't realized was broken. So? Malcolm said, pulling Claire closer. How do you feel about your mom wanting to be more involved? Good. Scared, but good. Claire thought about the way her mother had knelt down to meet Lily, the genuine apology in her voice. I think she really means it this time. And even if she doesn't, Lily said pragmatically, still focused on her pine cones, we'll be okay. We're good at being a family by ourselves. Malcolm reached over and ruffled her hair. That's right, baby. We are. 2 months later, they had their real wedding in Mr. Grant's backyard, just as Lily had suggested. It was small, just family and close friends, but it was perfect. Lily wore a yellow dress that she'd picked out herself and carried a basket of flower petals that she scattered with great ceremony down the grass aisle. Claire's mother sat in the front row, wiping away tears and actually smiling. Malcolm had written his own vows, and when he spoke about Claire choosing them when she could have chosen easy, about love that grows from truth instead of fantasy, there wasn't a dry eye in the small gathering. Claire's vows were simpler. I promise to choose you every day, not because I made a bet, not because I gave my word, but because you and Lily are the best choice I've ever made. When the minister pronounced them husband and wife for the second time, but the first time for real, Malcolm's kiss tasted like forever and new beginnings and all the Sunday mornings yet to come. The reception was held in the same backyard, with string lights hung between the trees and a chocolate cake that Lily had helped design. As the evening wound down and the last guests headed home, Claire found herself sitting on the back porch swing with Malcolm, watching Lily catch fireflies in the gathering dusk. Any regrets? Malcolm asked, his arm warm around her shoulders. Claire thought about the life she'd left behind, the empty apartment, the meaningless social events, the trust fund that had been restored when her mother realized how serious she was about her new family. All of it felt like someone else's story now. Only one, she said. Malcolm tensed slightly. What's that? I regret that it took me so long to find you. His answering smile was soft and full of love. Worth the wait. Lily came running over, her jar of fireflies glowing softly in her hands. Look, I caught 5. Can we keep them? Just for tonight, Malcolm said. Then we'll let them go so they can find their families. Like Claire found us? Exactly like that. As they sat together on the swing, watching the fireflies blink in Lily's jar and listening to her plans for the next day's adventures, Claire realized this was what happiness looked like. Not the grand gestures or dramatic moments she'd once imagined, but the quiet certainty of being exactly where you belonged. She'd married Malcolm Reed because of a foolish bet, but she'd stayed because of love. Real, complicated, everyday love that grew stronger with each shared morning, each small decision to choose each other again. Claire? Lily said, settling between them on the swing. Yes, sweetie? When I grow up and get married, I want it to be exactly like yours and Dad's. You want to marry a stranger on a bet? Malcolm teased. Lily giggled. No, silly. I want to marry my best friend, someone who makes me laugh and cuts my apples right and stays even when things get hard. Claire felt tears prick her eyes. That sounds perfect. The best kind of love, Malcolm agreed, pressing a kiss to the top of Lily's head, as the stars came out above them and Lily's fireflies blinked their gentle light. Claire thought about all the ways a life could change in an instant. How a reckless bet could become a real promise. How a marriage of convenience could become a love story. How 3 separate people could become a family simply by choosing each other over and over again. She'd kept her word, just as she'd promised. But more importantly, she'd kept her heart open to possibilities she'd never imagined. And that, Claire thought, as Malcolm's hand found hers in the darkness, had made all the difference. 6 months later, Claire was making Sunday morning pancakes when Lily wandered into the kitchen, still in her pajamas, holding a crayon drawing. "I made this for you," Lily said, holding up the paper. It was a picture of 3 stick figures standing in front of a house. The tallest figure wore what looked like a tie. The medium figure had long hair and a dress, and the smallest figure was holding something that might have been a fishbowl. "It's our family," Lily explained unnecessarily. "See? There's Dad, and there's you, and there's me, and that's Bubbles." Claire knelt down to examine the drawing more closely. In crayon letters across the top, Lily had written, "My family." "It's beautiful," Claire said, meaning every word. "Can I hang it on the refrigerator?" "Duh," Lily said with 7-year-old sass. "That's where family pictures go." As Claire taped the drawing to the refrigerator door, right next to Lily's school photos and Malcolm's work schedule and grocery lists written in all their handwritings, she thought about how perfectly Lily had captured them. Not a perfect family, not a traditional family, not the family any of them had planned, but their family, built on truth, strengthened by choice, held together by love. And that, Claire realized as Malcolm's arms came around her from behind and Lily began setting the table for 3, was the best kind of family there was. The kind worth keeping your word for. The kind worth everything.